me tacky.
Inspired by a true story.
They made me white.
The Mayoress Murderess.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who's B, it's your girl KylerB coming at you with a new video. So today we're going to be talking about Ginny Georgia season 3, and let's get right into the video because this season is the best season of Ginny Georgia so far. So obviously, let me give you a bit of a preface of what happened the first 2 seasons, where we left off on, all that. So Georgia got married to Paul, and she got arrested like 10 minutes right after she got married to Paul. So Georgia, she killed Tom Fuller, which is Cynthia Fuller's husband. He was currently on hospice level care, like he was basically slowly dying. But I guess since Georgia asked Cynthia to block Bill's apartment application from getting an apartment in Wellsbury, for as a thank you, when I guess seeing how Cynthia's struggling with her husband's condition, she I guess did a mercy kill for Cynthia and killed Tom Fuller by suffocating him with a pillow. Now, unbeknownst to Georgia, she didn't know Austin was in the closet, and he opened it and saw Georgia literally killing Tom Fuller. So basically this happened. So when Austin, he confided in Ginny, basically said I saw Georgia did, I saw his mom did it. So they was you can't say anything because Georgia will go to jail, whatever. So Georgia's arrested. She's awaiting trial. She got arrested on a weekend, so you have to wait until Monday to get anything happening, which is that's how it goes. So really this whole video is going to be in defense of Georgia Miller. If you saw my first 2 Ginny and Georgia videos, I always said in defense of Georgia Miller, let's go. Let's go. This season was basically hardcore mental health issues, basically sacrifice abuse, all of that, domestic abuse, all of that going on, financial instability, all that. It was so much going on in the season, almost this background and backstory of why Georgia Miller is the way she is now, Georgia Randolph, because she's married to Paul. So let me go defend Georgia Miller, Georgia Randolph, whatever. So Georgia killed Tom Fuller. She's on trial for that because Cynthia Fuller basically knew that she had something to do with it. So out of the 3 kills that Georgia killed, she killed Anthony Green, which is her first husband, who was basically abusing her and kind of keeping her in that marriage. And she accidentally killed him by withholding his medication and not giving it to him when he was having a heart attack. So that was her first kill. Accidental, but she made the choice to not give him his medicine. Her second kill was the Kenny, which she saw Kenny basically touch Ginny, basically assaulted her, by touching her and when Ginny told him to stop. So Georgia saw that, and basically she knew what she'd been through as a kid, that she did not want that for her daughter. Now she went to extreme lengths of stopping it by poisoning him. He unfortunately had a heart attack while he was driving his car, so it went into a heart attack turn car crash that he died from. So that was her second kill. She shouldn't have killed them, but obviously they were doing bad things to Ginny, and also her her first husband was doing bad things to her. So now Tom Fuller, she should have just left it alone, because she shouldn't have played decided who lives or who dies. If Cynthia never asked take him out of his misery, all of that, you shouldn't have done that. She really wanted to say goodbye, do it on her own time, at least have a little bit more time with him. So that's where we have it. Now, I'm going to basically do this video with defending Georgia, but I'm also going to speak about the other characters like Max, Marcus, all of that, because it ties in. So let's talk about the whole case itself, about Cynthia, the whole Cynthia Fuller's husband, Tom Fuller, all that. So Paul, he hired this like really fancy lawyer, basically try to like get her off, all that. So he was basically saying like, if what's your angle here? She's basically saying that, you know, Tom Fuller basically accidentally suffocated himself. He basically all the medication he was on, he could have rolled over and suffocated himself with a pillow. So the defense lawyer was like, you know, why don't you pin it on Cynthia? You know, she was going through a lot of like struggles. She was like going like almost broke with all the things, and like, you know, maybe if, you know, Tom did die, she would get like some type of pension, some type of money from him, whatever. So they were like, let's do that angle. But she was like, no, I don't want to like pin it on Cynthia. She didn't want to pin it on Cynthia. She wanted to just, you know, find a different angle where nobody else gets in trouble. She doesn't get in trouble. Cynthia doesn't get in trouble. It was an accident, you know, call it that, even though we know the truth that, you know, Georgia did, you know, kill the guy. So, you know, they were like, put it on her. She's like, no, no, no. So Paul, he's like defending Georgia at first, and, you know, they put the PI on the stand. So as soon as they put the PI on the stand, the PI basically said, you know, I was, you know, investigating Georgia Miller, and then found out that she's a serial killer. Basically said that on the stand. This is basically a very national trial going on. Every television station's watching this. It's like she is basically on high alert. So after she got out of jail, she's basically on house arrest. She can't go basically outside of her neighborhood. She has to be on house arrest basically for, I think it was like almost 2-3 months. She couldn't move out of her own house. Like, she was just basically getting like antsy in the house, but she made fun out of it, binoculars and like snooping on the people. So anyway, she's on trial for the whole situation. So as soon as, you know, the PI called her a serial killer, everybody was basically like, oh, serial killer? You had a first husband, da-da-da. Zion was there, basically like, oh, you killed your first husband, you killed a second husband, da-da-da-da. Like, oh, am I next? Paul's thinking he's next. You know, you got Nick, who was basically working with Paul on the campaign, basically like not liking Georgia anymore, and basically, you know, like, he knows since he was dating the PI filled him in on what Georgia was going up against and all that stuff. And they basically aired Georgia out on that stand. Like, they aired Georgia out. They talked about her childhood, basically the killing husbands, all that, and so on. So with this season, we dive deep into Georgia, because Georgia, like, there was really no one there for her except for Joe. And we were going to get to that. Joe was really there for her. He heard all the nastiness on the news about Georgia, and he still was there for her. Still, you know, protected her. Georgia could have used that, you know, Cynthia had a affair with Joe to get her out of it while her husband was sick on his deathbed. She could have used that and probably got off way easier than what she endured the entire season. But because she didn't want to put Joe into that, and she didn't want to put Cynthia through that, she, you know, withheld that, and, like, you know, she's not going to put them through that. Anyways, Paul distanced himself from Georgia, basically moved out of the house, was not showing up for her in trial. Basically, you know, she was on her own. Then after, you know, Gil, he came into Zion's home and basically was like, oh, you know, Georgia's dangerous, she killed these people, da 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 da. Like, Gil was very much a villain. Like, he was abusing Georgia before he went to jail. Then after he got out of jail, he was basically antagonizing her and like, oh, you know, you're next, like, you know, you're behind bars now, da 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 da. Like, he really wanted to get his lick back by Georgia, because Georgia put him in jail with the fraud, you know, blue collar crime. So, but he's also an abuser, so he's not a good guy. He really demeans Georgia, hits Georgia, all that. So he talks to Zion, basically like, oh, you need to grab your kids. So Zion been with Georgia for 16 years. I'm trying to figure out, how old is Georgia, because what do you mean 16 years? Giving like she's 31, 32. So I was just like, oh, wow. But Zion, who knows Georgia from like most of her life, did not trust Georgia, basically agreed with Gil to take the kids from Georgia. So national news, everybody getting like at her front gate saw when CPS, Child Protective Services, took up Ginny and Austin.
Mom, where are they taking him? I don't understand what's going on.
Drag me down into the
Please don't do this. They need to be with me. I'm their mother. They have to be with me. I've done dark things.
And it was just like so hard, like it was just so sad because like those that's her world. She's always said those three, like them three against the world, whatever, like that's basically her people, her ride or dies, like that's like her whole entire world. So just for them to be snatched up, like, you know, like that, it was like she was at rock bottom. And then hearing news outlets and people basically diagnose Georgia, basically say like, you know, self-narcissist, all that, you know, all that, basically she killed her husband, so she's like a, you know, a serial killer, male killer, da da da, like basically all this talk about Georgia, which is like so sad to see her go through that. I would say she's definitely wrong for killing Tom, but from what she's went through as a child, her background, basically when she was like confessing to Joe and telling Joe like, you know, her father, her biological father, is in jail because he attempted to murder both her mom and herself. You know, when she was growing up, it seemed like she should never have been born. That's what she was telling Joe, you know. And then her stepfather was abusing her and touching her. And, you know, obviously when she got the lick back and took the gun, she shot him in the hand. And then Zion stopped her from, you know, actually killing him. So, like, she's went through a lot. And then she has no high school diploma, you know, no background really on any type of education, but these life experiences helped her to get to where she is right now. You know, she obviously got through the wrong crowds with the biker gang and all that stuff, and, you know, she had to fend for herself. You know, she found how to pickpocket and stuff like that, which is wrong, but that's the way she survived. She's pickpocket, you know, found ways to, you know, survive, help take care of her children on her own, and that's where she prides herself in. She prides herself with being independent, doing things on her own, without no degree, nothing, getting herself from the ground up, you know? And that's why we just really have to really rock with her. Now, she does stumble along the way, makes these wrong decisions, but she understands, you know, for the betterment of her and her kids, like what she has to do. So, you know, that's where I basically end with that. Georgia, she went through a lot, and I'm so glad that she got free. Now we're going to talk about Ginny. Ginny, basically, we can see the trickle-down effect of Georgia and what she, like, you know, did growing, like, raising her kids, trickled down, and, like, Ginny finally realizing, like, you know, finally getting almost a whole picture of what Georgia's been through and what she did. You know, she finally realizing, like, you know, Georgia had to do what she had to do. Like, even as bad as it is, she did what she had to do. Like, when she got taken away from Georgia and had to live with Zion, she basically told Zion, like, hey, why wait till now to actually be a concerned father? Because really and truly, like, yeah, you can fault Georgia for, like, saying, like, oh, we're car camping and basically making, like, Ginny lie to Zion about that. But, you know, if it was real concern, why were you going to Korea, leaving your mother of your daughter and then her other kid alone? And, like, oh, not with a care in the world. Like, you barely have money coming in, and Georgia doesn't like the fact that you're relying on your parents so much. Also, the fact that your parents, most likely your mother, basically has, like, some type of, like, prejudice, like, against Georgia because Georgia's not, you know, articulate and all that stuff, you know. Basically, I think that scene in season 2 or 1 where, you know, they wanted to take Georgia's kids away from her, and Georgia was not, you know, having that. She wanted to raise the kids. I feel like, you know, if Lynette actually really welcomed Georgia in a little bit more, you know, Georgia would have been, like, a little bit more, you know, welcome to the fact that, you know, allowing Lynette help around and be the grandmother for Ginny, and also, you know, Austin as well, because, you know, they did take in Austin as, you know, one of their own as well. That was a little bit more welcome to the fact of Georgia, even though she didn't come from a HBCU, she's not black, she's not highly educated, all that. Georgia would have been more fine with that, because as soon as Lynette met Simone, she was like, Ginny, did you hear that? She's from an HBCU. Ginny, did you hear that? She's a criminal offense lawyer from, you know, Harvard, da-da-da-da. Like, she's educated, da-da-da-da. all the things that Georgia is not. So it's just kind of like, you know, you can understand why Georgia felt some type of way every time Lynette comes into their home or like makes her presence known, because it's just like she did not feel welcome. So Lynette finally took a little accountability, and Georgia took accountability that she let her pride get into the way, and you know they apologized and hugged it out, and you know Georgia now feels welcome to, you know, Lynette as the grandmother of her daughter and stuff like that. It's like she's a little bit like, she didn't have that mother figure growing up in life, really, that was like, you know, gives her hugs and stuff like that. So having Lynette around, and granted she's only 31, 32, you know, she, you know, finally giving her a hug and like welcoming her, it was actually nice to see like that little character arc building, because she let her pride to the side. They both like realized they have to take accountability of what went down the years prior. So, and they had to let it out for the sake of Ginny. So it was nice to see. But also, I gotta understand, Zion trying to be so concerned for Ginny is crazy, because like, you let Georgia take care of her, go across the world, move all the time, no care in the world, no say in the world. But then now, because Gil said something, it's like, oh, I gotta get joint custody. I'm gonna petition for joint custody. Now, granted, Ginny did say like she wants that too. She wants both her parents in her life, because Zion was very much an absentee, sometimey father. Like, he would just show up on his bike and be the cool dad, and very opposite of Georgia, who was like always in their life. But you know, if he wants to really be in Ginny's life, you know, have that secure location, be a joint custody, you know, sure. And you know, Georgia did agree to it, you know, for the sake of, you know, raising their daughter together, you know, because he told Simone that Georgia's going to be a part of his life forever, because they do have a kid together. That's the, you know, unfortunate fact. You know, if you want to start a relationship with a person who has a kid with somebody else, they're always going to be in that person's life, especially if they're still underage. So that's how it is going to be, and it might put a little strain on the relationship, but it is the truth. They do share that, and you know, they had that little, you know, rekindling every now and then. But you know, I feel like since he's serious about Simone this time, and Georgia is still married to Paul, because I don't think the divorce is settled, but it is what it is. So there we go. Gil, he taking care of Austin. He was just trying to spite Georgia, because I guess Georgia took away him from her. But like, he was abusing Georgia, so why would he want to be in an abusive environment? But the thing about it is, Austin never had his father figure. He only had Zion and Paul as father figures. So to have his real dad be in his life, he kind of liked that fact. But then, you know, at the end, that he had to be the one to put his father away is, you know, it was probably like sad. But I mean, he chose his mom, you know, for the betterment. But Austin definitely needs therapy. He needs help, like, because he basically shot a gun at his own father, you know. He saw his mother killed somebody, and then now he lied. He perjured himself on the stand and lied on his father, and said that his father killed Cynthia Fuller's husband, Tom Fuller. And he's most likely going to be on the run, or going to be put away for a very long time in, you know, Massachusetts, okay? So after he's already a felon, because he just got out of jail for a blue-collar crime. So yeah, he's never going to see his father anytime soon. So I mean, obviously you can understand why he's feeling some type of way that, you know, he did that. So he really does need therapy. Really does. You know, at this young age, dealing with all that, like, the trickle-down effect of Georgia, you know, life traits, whatever, going down to her kids, is just like, it's interesting to see how it's going, but it's also sad to see, like, you know, that's the outcome of what's going on. So another, you know, situation that happened was, you know, the whole friendship between Mang, you know, how Nora, you know, she was very much against, you know, Georgia, and how she always, like, basically did not want to hang out with Ginny because of Georgia, and that her mom's was friends with Cynthia, and da-da-da-da. I feel like Nora got off scot-free, because it's just like, Nora was avoiding you the entire time, Ginny. Like, the fact that you opened with her open arms and stuff like that. Like, granted, after they got taken away from Georgia, you know, she was babysitting, you know, Cynthia Fuller's son. So Austin used to go over there for like, you know, the play dates or whatever, and she used to pick up Austin. So, or she picked up Austin one time instead of Gil picking up Austin. So that's how, you know, she had that little connect thing, and that's how they started getting like besties all the time. But the girl did not want to speak to you before. She was very much avoidant of you. The only person who had your back, ride or die for real, was Maxine. She wanted to be there for you, always being like, you know, let's be there for Ginny, like she's going through a lot, Abby and Ginny, they like bonded over like their traumas. Like Ginny used to self-harm with burning herself, and Abby, she tapes her thighs and all that, and she's also bulimic because she's always throwing up. So it's just like leaving Maxine out of that because she's too dramatic. A theater kid who's gay is too dramatic. Like, whoa, like the sky's blue. Like a gay theater kid is dramatic. Like Kurt Hummel, like hello. Like Maxine being dramatic, like okay, but what about, you know, Maxine's feelings? Like you're not taking account Maxine's feelings. Like she had her play. I think Ginny, obviously she had stuff to do, so she couldn't really attend all the way for the play. But like they were just lying to her, leaving her out of stuff, not telling her what's going on in their lives. Also, the whole situation with Abby and Samantha, like I think Abby was trying to show Samantha that she tapes her thighs, but it, like the miscommunication of it all, you know, caused Samantha and her kissing, which was like, and then that's maybe what realized that Abby liked Tris, and then they had their little thing going on. Then Nora, you know, Ginny and Abby basically egging Abby's father's house because, you know, now that he's with his, you know, girlfriend and he's living with her now, so it's just like, oh, you're moving along while their mother is like still crying at night and not really being there for Abby, and Abby seemed like she's all alone with this whole situation. So that's what's going on over there. You know, them trauma dumping on Abby basically for her to confess that she's bulimic. You know, it's just like, you know, they really could have allowed Maxine to be there. Like leaving Maxine out was crazy work, and then just like having a separate group chat was crazy work, and then like the flashbacks to them being kids and always doing stuff together was like, wow, they really just like ditched their like longtime friend for what? And they're still sophomores, but they're finally getting out that sophomore and going to be juniors. So let's see how that goes. Now, Marcus. Like, he's a real one. Even though he's going through stuff of his own, he's a real one. Him being for Ginny, because Ginny had this, she became preggo, which is crazy work because that was like the first instance of Ginny being Georgia. She got preggo at basically around the same age as Georgia, and it was either for her to keep it or, you know, abort it, and she decided to abort it because, you know, Ginny had future ahead of her, like the poet situation, she gets good grades, all that, you know, bright future, all that. So, you know, it was just Ginny's choice, and Ginny decided to, you know, not have the child. Also, the person that she had a child with was crazy because she had some like little fling with Wolf, this Wolf character in her poetry club, whatever. She told Wolf that she's preggo, and Wolf just said that's wild. Like, that's crazy. Like, and he didn't even like contact her. So Ginny was literally on her own. She was separated from her mom. Like, it was just like, wow. Like, having that plot in the season was like, they didn't really need to have Ginny to be preggo, but you know, she got through the whole situation. Marcus showed up for her even though he was going through his own situation, being there.
Hey.
When somebody threw a brick through Georgia's house window, he went over there and fixed it for Georgia. Like, hello? Like, him being there, being a solid person throughout the whole situation, even though he knows the truth that Georgia most likely killed the guy, you know, and killed the other two guys too, because, you know, him and Ginny has these like real talks, because Marcus is like the only person that Ginny can be real with in her life, just like how Joe is the only person that Georgia can be like real with, tell the truth with, like be like her real and authentic self. Like, they are just like having talks at the skate park about, you know, what's going on in their life. Even though at the time Ginny and Marcus wasn't together, they were just like really good friends, confidants. Like, Marcus not even revealing anything about Georgia being a killer for real. Like, just shows you like how real and authentic that relationship is. But the thing is that Marcus is going through a lot. He's depressed. He's still dealing with the depression of his friend dying, and then he had developed a drinking problem too. So he's depressed and alcoholic, like two bad traits at the same time. So he really needs help. And the thing is that his family, his parents, they kind of like just try to brush it over and basically say like, you know, if you do something else or like go to a party or whatever, you can like probably be happy again. You can turn it on, you can turn it off. Like, they're not really thinking of it as a real severe issue, which is like the mental health situation that's going on. So like he goes to therapy, but I think he needs a little bit more because he's also being an alcoholic.
What's wrong with you? Do you hate us?
No, I don't hate you. I hate me. I hate me, okay? I hate me, okay? I hate me!
Like, he blacked out at the homecoming dance or prom or whatever, and he didn't even know that he kissed Ginny. And then later on, he then lied and said he didn't love Ginny anymore, which was obviously a lie. But it's just like, he really needs help. And then at the end, when he was just like, he hates himself, and then he got drunk again, and then he wet the bed, and then Ginny being right there. I mean, that just shows you the true love, because he wet the bed, and Ginny was still right there by his side. And if it wasn't probably for his mother being like, you know, Ginny, is not the right time for you to be here, like, you know, they're really like locked in. Like, Marcus is definitely the person for Ginny to be with. Like, I don't think it has been any more clear this season. Like, he's been her ride or die rock. Now, finally, this season we have Georgia and Joe getting together. Like, yes, we've been waiting for this to happen. Georgia and Joe to go together. Like, Georgia had like a 3-person roster, which was Paul, Zion, and Joe. And Paul and Zion, they whack, they suck. You know, Paul really left her for dead, and Zion really betrayed her. So it's kind of like, it's really no coming back for that. And then Joe, the only guy in her corner, only one who showed up for her, only one that Georgia really confessed and said, like, you know, I did all those things that happened in the media. I said all those things like, you know, like, they're 80% true, 90% true. Like, this is really true. And he still, you know, believed her, kissed her, made out of her, They had their little time together. Like, even when she was running away on Marcus's bike, you know, he did not rat her out. He, like, held her back, like, held her down. Still, like, visited her in jail, all that. You know, all that. He was there for her ride or die. But the thing is that she lied to Paul because they needed Paul to be, like, as a united front at the courthouse to, like, be like, you know, he's the mayor and he's not even like, you know, showing up for you. Like, that's not really looking good for the optics, like, at all. Like, for the court of public opinion and the court of law, it's not looking good. So we need Paul here to, like, show, like, a united front. So she lied to Paul using Ginny's, like, positive pregnancy test and said, like, she's preggo. And he was like, oh, well, since he's going to be a father now, like, he need to show up. He got to come back home. Came back home. He was excited to be a father, whatever. And they had a little thing together. After, you know, probably a long time, they didn't have anything together. But then shortly after, because he had a little talk with Zion at the Blue Farm and found out it was actually Ginny who was pregnant, not Georgia. So he found out. And that whole scene where he, like, gets upset and then, like, bangs his head against the wall, like,
Ginny and Austin were my family. That baby would have been my family.
kind of scary because Georgia's went through a lot of the domestic violence in her life. So seeing the person that she's married to almost like came to an inch of like hitting her was also scary too. But I mean, people are trying to say like, well, she did lie to him about like being preggo, but it's just like he was not showing up for her. He left her for dead. I mean, granted, it was like really kind of messed up how he found out about the whole situation from Zion, but you know, it is what it is. So he like really divorced her, really said like, I'm divorcing you, while she's still mid-trial. Like, I'm divorcing you, no comment on if she did it or not. Like, that was kind of jacked up. Like, she's going through a murder trial and you're saying no comment? Like, wow. Anyways, so Joe came in the picture. They had a time together. Paul had a time together. So then when he came back to the Blue Farm and he's like ranting because Georgia got free. Like, thank you. Like, thank you, Lord. She's free. She's like back home, no ankle monitor, whatever. And, you know, Joel was asking her, like, you know, when have you guys got together? Like, what happened? What time? When was this? And come to find out, Georgia's with child.
You can't escape change. Didn't you say you drink milk when you're pregnant? Change is inevitable.
So it's just like, whose child is this? Because it could be Paul or Joe's. Paul wants nothing to do with Georgia, but he's trying to blame Georgia for like how he's acting and like everything that happened to him. But it's just like, no, Georgia did not make you leave your family or leave her during her murder trial. You could have still stuck by her. You wanted Georgia to confess everything to him, but you still would have left her regardless because your image is most important, right? You like removed the lawyer from her. You wouldn't pay for the lawyer, all of that. So it's just like, why are you upset with Georgia because she withheld some things from her past before Wellsbury? Like why are you upset with her? Like, she told you most of the stuff, so why are you so upset with her? Like, he blamed Georgia, and Georgia's like, I did not bring out anything that was already in you, like your aggression, you being almost hitting her, Georgia, like that's probably in you. So, you know, that was what she said to him, the last thing she said to him. But, you know, Joe and her are trying to be a thing, but I think they'll formally have a divorce with Paul, but now she's with child and she doesn't know who it is because like literally within 72 hours she was with Paul and then she was with Joe. So we don't know whose child it is, but I really hope it is Joe's baby. So we're gonna have a Wellsbury or Massachusetts baby because obviously she likes to call them either the state or the city of where, you know, the baby was born. Like Virginia, Austin, Texas, Wellsbury, Massachusetts. You know. So we're gonna have her Georgia's gonna have her third child. We don't know who it is. So Paul's gonna probably be in the picture to see like, oh, she really was telling the truth. Like, oh, she really is preggo. She really is preggers. You know. Joe's probably gonna obviously be there because obviously he's like a ride or die with Georgia. Like, he's really her ride or die. Like, there's no arguing that. Like, that's her real true soulmate. Like, to see Zion really betray her just shows you, like, he's really not the real ride or die out here. Really not. Maxine needs some better friends or, like, leaves her friends because she's dealing with Marcus having an alcoholic problem and being depressed, and they don't really care about her. Like, she needs better friends. I feel like Ginny only kind of uses her to, like, get to Marcus, and it's just like, are you really Maxine's friend for real? I like that, you know, Ginny has, you know, Bracia really being more, you know, in the season, you know, her friend group outside of Meng. Like, I really like that. You know, it's really important for her to be, like, rooted, you know, in her identity. Her poetry really, you know, eats. I mean, the one that she called Georgia a monster going viral is just showing, like, how she was acting out. She's really doing so much better, like, past season 1. Like, the only thing that she annoyed me was that how she treated Maxine, like, and then how she kind of like had too much dip on her trip and tried to, like, you know, say, don't make me regret setting you free. Like, who are you talking to? Like, Georgia is still your mom. Like, what you mean don't make me regret setting you free? Like, girl, please, because she really went into Georgia mode, lying to Cynthia, telling her that there was like cameras at Blue Farm, and basically making her kind of like almost kind of sort of lie on the stand and basically say like that could have happened, you know, he could have, you know, Gil could have entered the house and killed him, you know, basically say that because, you know, she was like, I'm gonna tell them to use you having an affair with Joe, and that could like basically ruin you.
Well, if she didn't care about you, why didn't she tell everyone that you were having an affair with Joe? That makes you look really bad. But she hasn't.
How did you know about that?
You don't care about her or us, fine. But there are cameras at Blue Farm. I have the footage. I could give it to her lawyer and then
Georgia basically like showing up for Joe because they want to added some like big business in the in Wellsbury, basically have like Starbucks and these like big corporations instead of like, you know, these little mom and pop shops that, you know, Joe is basically a mom and pop shop. So if they bring these big corporations, those mom and pop shops are going to be like useless. So, you know, having Georgia basically help Joe out with that was like very nice. And he's obviously going to win, keep his like store and his business intact. So, you know, that just shows you like Georgia really be looking out for her people. But I can't wait for season 4. I really need a season 5 because they said that, you know, there's a little bit more story to tell after seeing how season 3 is. Obviously, Georgia's father calling her from jail and saying like, oh, her step-parents, her mom and her stepfather, if, you know, if he can find her, the mom and stepfather can also find her too. Like, that's really interesting. And then obviously you saw that truck, you know, pass by Georgia's house. So, like, that's going to be another situation. They're going to pop in on Georgia and probably be dangerous. But I'm like, what could they ask from Georgia? Georgia did not take anything from them. Like, why are you showing up at Georgia's house? Like, you are from 16 years. 16 years, you have nothing better to do but show up to Wellsbury, Massachusetts and try to antagonize Georgia and her family. Like, hello? Like, Georgia did not ask you for anything for 16 years and you go and try and show up her house. Like, that's crazy. But that's going to be a whole storyline too. Georgia's family showing up at her past, basically coming out to haunt her. Also the fact that, you know, she's like not running anymore. She wants to do better for herself, get therapy. Like, hello? Like, she's trying to do better. She's trying to like grow. Like, hello? In defense of Georgia one more time. Like, I'm always going to be writing for Georgia. I'm glad that she took accountability, like finally realized that what she's doing is wrong. She wants to be better for her kids. Like, you know, Georgia eats. Like, hello? Ginny, you know, I guess she just needs to not walk in the same footsteps as Georgia, because her basically telling Georgia, like, I did what I had to do. Like, oh, that's basically the same lingo Georgia was using to justify everything that she did. But anyway, guys, that was my season review of Ginny and Georgia season 3. If you guys like the video, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, comments, concerns, and subscribe to my channel. Subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Peace.